Okay, hello everyone.
Hello.
It's very exciting. Well, welcome. I hope you can hear us from both channels here. Yeah, grand. I believe we are. Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome to Pop-Up Painting. This is very exciting. Another lovely live session from our homes to yours during this tricky time. A little bit about Pop-Up Painting in case you're joining us as fresh eyes. We are a company that's all about helping you unleash your own creativity. We like to bring painting out of the classroom, so it's not too serious. It's not an art class. This is a fun experience. We want to take it out of the class and bring it into sort of public social spaces, things like bars, pubs, restaurants. So lots of excitement to be had. We do have a motto that is all about how to unleash your own creativity, to you to have one glass of something in the other hand. I have a lovely G&T with me this afternoon. Laura has something, I'm sure. It's tasty bevy, lovely.
Sure.
We do have a motto at Pop-Up Painting that the more you drink, the better it looks. So we do encourage you to take that on board if you so wish, which is very exciting. A few things about what we kind of use normally. So we are using acrylic paints. Oh, I haven't told you who I am. I'm George. Hello. I'm going to be taking you through sort of the background this afternoon. So if you need any assistance, comment on YouTube or Instagram, just let me know and I hopefully try and answer your questions. But we have Laura here, who is our expert painter and will be taking you through step by step how to recreate this painting, our Sunflowers by Van Gogh, this afternoon. As I was saying, the materials we use normally are acrylic paints. If you don't have these at home, that is absolutely not a problem. Don't worry, please feel free to use whatever materials you want. As I said, I'm here to help out. So if you have, I don't know, if you're using felt tips, if you're using watercolors, if you're just using pencils, you can use whatever you want, feel free, and we can help you with that. Just let us know in the comments if you feel like you need a bit more assistance, and Laura and I can give you advice on how to use those materials instead. Having said that, we have actually just teamed up with one of our suppliers at Pop-Up Paint. So if you have a look on our website at popuppainting.com/live, you can find a link to a package that we've created for you guys. So you can actually get all the materials that we like to use. So you get palettes, you get the paints and all of the other bits that you need. So that's quite exciting. So if you do want the real true experience, you can get all the materials too here. So that's lovely. We also are all about creating a very exciting experience for you guys. So we normally at our events have music too. We are sort of limited, obviously, because we're live, to send you too much music. But if you have a look on our YouTube description, there is a link to our Spotify playlist. We've made a sort of a mini playlist for you guys, so you can have a look at that. If you want to have some music to accompany your painting, go ahead, look on the music that we've suggested for you. Hopefully that will really help kind of make this experience all very sensual and delightful. So yeah. So yes. I don't think there's much more to say, Laura, other than we would love to see your pictures. So please do send us some images through. If you've made some paintings or drawings or whatever this afternoon, please, you can tag us on Instagram. You can at us PopUp Painting and hashtag popuppaintinglive, and we can share those too and spread all of the creative love. Yeah. And obviously, this is live. Everyone out there, you're watching, hopefully watching on Instagram and or YouTube. Should there, for any reason, be any kind of technical difficulties, we will encourage you maybe to go over to a different site. So we have two just in case. So hopefully there will be one that will be able to be used. If we go a bit fuzzy or the sound goes down for a second or something, that's just that's the joys of being live and the technology. So please bear with us. We'll try our best to make this very sort of seamless. But yeah, if there are any issues, we'll try and resolve them and we'll go through them. And also this is a bit speedy. We only have like an hour on Instagram, so we want to make sure that we get all of our instructions through. So if you're feeling like we're going fast at any point, you can let us know, or we can explain some things again, but you can actually pause this stuff. So on YouTube, it's going to be up there for a few days and you can pause it live too. So if you feel like we're going too fast or you just want to let things dry for a bit, that's absolutely fine. You can pause and come back to us. You can go and make a cup of tea and then return to us a bit later if you like as well. So don't feel like you have to follow along at our speed. We just want to make sure you get everything you need to make your lovely painting. So Laura, I'm going to hand over to you. We can start this delightful, very summery Van Gogh Sunflowers painting and let's get the excitement going.
Fabulous. All right, I'm going to unplug my headphones from the phone. So hopefully now everyone on Instagram can hear me. I need to get rid of you, don't I? Is that, I'm going to remove you from Instagram. So hopefully you've just got me on Instagram now, just in case YouTube ever wonder why I'm doing this. 2 cameras. Multitasking. So I am very excited. We are going to be doing Van Gogh sunflowers. This is one of, if not the very first painting I did with pop-up painting, so very dear to my heart. Now, as you can see, this is quite a complex one. It's a bit much for an hour's painting. So like George said, you can always pause the video if you are on YouTube, or if you're on Instagram, it will be available in our stories for the next 24 hours. But I'm probably going to simplify this quite a bit, and we're just going to focus on getting as much of the background and the base colors on, and then you can add details later on. I am going to be using acrylic paint. Here we go. Here's my palette. I am using yellow, blue, white, and red. I've not got any black going on today. Oh, I've got a little bit there. Maybe I will. Force a habit. You can add whatever colors you want, really. You don't have to do these in the exact same colors I'm doing. This is about unleashing your creativity. So if at some point you decide you want to ignore me completely, you might not even want to do sunflowers. You might want to do roses or something else. Or blue doesn't go in your living room and you were planning on hanging it above the fireplace. You might want to make it a different color in the background. I don't mind. So let's crack on, because we do love. Nice.
Sorry, Laura, we do love to see everyone going a bit rogue. Is that correct?
We love it when people go rogue. I get so excited.
Yeah.
So I have got my paint here. I've also got 3 different brushes. Don't worry if you haven't. This is just what I'm using. I've got a large flat brush, which I use mostly for the big color areas. I have a medium round brush, which is, as says on the tin, it's a medium size round tip brush. There you go. And I also have the wee one. There you go, the little one for the details there. That's just a little tiny brush. But if you've only got one, don't worry. You can get the same effect by just pressing lighter and harder to cover bigger areas. So how are we going to kick off with this one? I am going to grab my medium brush. Yes, I am. All right. And what I'm going to do is dip it in my water. Now, water is your best friend today, if you're using acrylic paint, of course, because the more water you add, the easier the paint spreads across the canvas. It will blend together easier, and it will also dry quicker. I know it sounds wrong, more water dries faster, but it's very true. So we are basically going to use our medium brush and our yellow paint as a pencil to start with. We're going to mark out all the shapes that we need. So the first thing I'm going to do is this line along the bottom. I'm going to decide where my table is, and then this is less scary. So I'm dipping this brush into my yellow paint. I'm just going to pick a point. You can have your table as big as you, or small as you like. I don't mind. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight. Do not panic if it goes a little bit wonky. It's fine. There's nothing neat about this painting, so we're not going to panic at all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding circle shapes wherever I want to have my sunflowers. Now, you might decide you just want to do one giant sunflower in the middle. You might want to go absolutely mad and do a huge bunch that's even bigger than this one. But remember, we don't have all of the time in the world. So I'm going to imagine where my little vase will be. And then I'm going to start adding a few circles. This is going to be rough for now. Don't worry too much about keeping it really, really neat. You can make them bigger, smaller. You just want to give yourself a little bit of a guide. It might be a bit difficult to see the yellow for now, but it's just circles. If you are struggling to see the yellow paint, do pop a comment on. George can let me know, and I will do it in a different color. But I'm going to add the little one down here just because I think that's a nice little touch. And then I'm going to simplify it by just doing a few bigger circles. We've got one big one here. We've got a medium-sized one here. Another one here. And I think that's all I'm going to do for now, just to keep it a little bit easier. But if you want to add more or less, that is absolutely fine. I'll tell you what, I'll put the green one in over here. Then we've got a bunch. Okay, so.
That's looking quite good, Laura. But yeah, I think you're right. It is slightly light. You might want to do something maybe a little bit more orangey.
I get the orange. Okay, so just very quickly to recap, if anybody missed any of those, I have done the line across the bottom. How's that? Can we see that one,
Yeah,
George?
brilliant. Yeah,
beautiful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Not a problem. So that's where my table's going to be. I've then just done circles for the basis of wherever I'm going to do my flowers. This is all really rough. Don't worry about it being perfect, because we're going to go over everything as we go. Can we see those circles now? Are they all right?
Yeah, they're looking more clear. Thank you.
Beautiful.
That's
No
grand.
worries.
No, Laura, we already. Oh, sorry.
No, you carry on.
God, I'm talking all over you today. We already have someone who is using some watercolor pencils this afternoon instead. Do you have any recommendations for
watercolor pencils? So with watercolor pencils, you can have really good fun with those because you can color everything in and then you can get your water on a clean brush and start blending it out. I would say when we do the background now, you're going to want to leave a bit of a gap. Otherwise, it's going to blend together and go blue and green. But it's all about experimentation with these kinds of things. So if you're using, just try to knock my laptop off with the paintbrush. Not good. If you are using pencils or pens, you may just want to go straight in with the full shapes of the flowers, because I'm going to be adding the leaves over the top of the blue once it's dry. So you may want to make sure you've got the shapes. If you look on our website, you'll be able to get the original version of this if you want to have a reference to hand. Or if you've got a different device like your phone, you might be watching on your laptop, you can grab the picture up on your phone or a tablet or something of the like. All right, so the last thing we are going to sketch in.
Delightful, thank you.
No worries. We're just going to do a very rough shape for our vase. So that's just going to, I'm going to do a little round vase. You can do whatever shape you like. It's totally up to you. This is very rough at this point, and we are going to go over it. It's very bulbous, this one. It's a very bulbous vase. That's why I love doing these paintings over and over again, because it changes every single time I do it. Beautiful. That's some kind of shape. Yes. Try and make it even on both sides, but if not, we won't worry too much. It's a round one. So this is the very, very basic version. We have sketched it out as if you were going for a full-on painting and you've done it in pencil first, so you know what's going to happen next. But let me tell you what's going to happen next for us now. We're going to pick up our big brush, if you have one, because we are going to fill in all around these shapes down to this line. I'm going to mix up a light blue. You'll notice the background is quite textured in the original. That we can add on at the end, so don't worry about that. For now, we're just going for a base blue color. So what I'm going to do, I've got a dark blue, so I'm going to mix a bit of my dark blue with a lot of my white. Woo. And don't worry if you run out of whatever color you mix up while you're doing the background, because this is going to be all textured by the end. So if you've got to mix up a blue and it's slightly different, not a problem. So remembering what I said, we are going to mix lots of water into this blue paint to help it spread as much as we can. And I'm then going to start just covering the background. I'm not going to worry about trying to make the brush strokes absolutely perfect, because we are going to add a bit of white texture on towards the end anyway. So if you've got some white blobs that are showing through, you're just a step ahead of the game. Remember to keep adding water. I'm using a flat square brush, so I'm using some horizontal and vertical strokes to kind of make that texture. You might not want to get all the way to the edge of your circles, because you'll notice it will go a little bit green. But this is your time now to just have a bit of fun slapping the paint on. Do not worry about being overly neat at all, because we want this to be quite a messy and textured painting. Woo! I just flicked the paint in my mouth. That was not very tasty.
Oh,
has anyone dipped their brush into their cup of tea yet?
Oh, I did that on my first ever event that I attended.
Oh, really?
Put brush straight into wine glass and then sipped from the wine glass, and it was awful.
Oh, yeah. Ugh.
Don't worry, kids. It won't hurt you too much.
Too much? At all.
Okay.
It just tastes absolutely disgusting.
Oh.
But I mean, we've all got different tastes, whatever you're into. Okay, so.
This is very true.
Ooh.
Laura, whilst you are finishing this background and people are sort of doing a lot of filling in and texture, we have, where is it on YouTube? We have Natasha, who is using pastels today. Now, I would have thought that pastels could also be quite good for if you're wanting to do some blending, a bit similar to like the watercolor in a very different way. But do you have any other tips?
Oh, do you know what? I have not used pastels since GCSE. We've all got the mediums we prefer using. I, again, would just say, keep experimenting. If you're worried about not being able to layer as we're going to be able to do with our acrylics, then you might want to just have a play around on a little scrap bit of paper first to see whether or not you can layer over certain colors, or whether you have to draw all of your shapes out first. If you are worried at all about layering, I would just say draw your sunflowers first in their full, and then fill in the background afterwards. We're just going for the quickest option at this time, just to try and make sure we get it all done by the time Instagram kicks us out.
Oh, I hate that bit. It's so sad.
I know, it makes me nervous because it doesn't tell you until the
know.
10-second countdown, and then it's just a bit too late, you know?
I know. But also, we use this phrase a lot when we're doing our events. That we always say to people, water is your best friend when you're doing these paintings. So like, it almost sounds counterintuitive, but I guess the wetter your paint is, the thinner it is, and the faster it dries. Although Absolutely. It sounds like, you know, if it's wetter, it shouldn't dry quicker, but it does somehow. So that's a good tip if you're trying to do this quickly along with us too.
Exactly. It is quite important for us right now that this blue background is spread as thin as you can. So if you have done it quite thick, take this time to really spread that paint as far as you can. Otherwise, we are going to end up with all sorts of green sunflowers. But to be fair, some of them are green anyway. So you might just say that all of your sunflowers haven't quite bloomed yet. There's always a good excuse for any thing that happens. We always say there's no mistakes in art, just happy accidents. So go with it, embrace it. And as you can see, mine is quite rough and ready. Beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is give this brush a really, really, really good rinse off in my water. We want to make sure it's clean if we use it again. I've also got a bit of kitchen roll here. This is very handy for drying your brush and taking off any excess paint. You can use whatever you've got there. If you've got napkins because you're fancy, or just bog roll. That does the trick too. Now that we can buy it in the shops again, it's all very exciting stuff. So I'm going to use my big brush to fill in the bottom bit, but if you feel a little bit worried that you may still have blue paint on your big brush, then you might want to swap to your medium brush, because that is yellow now, because we are going to do our table cover. Ooh, or just the table. It's an orangey color now. So what I'm going to do is grab my little palette, as everyone can see, and I am going to mix up an orange color. Can we all remember how to make orange? Thought you'd get excited to jump in there, George. You love the
Oh, sorry. I did this with Annie last week.
I know, that's why I was waiting for you. I knew you weren't gonna.
Yes. Wait, what were you asking me? Orange. Red and yellow.
You can have half a point for speed of answering. All right, so what I'm going to do is very much the same as I did then. I'm going to keep the brush strokes really, really rough. Mix in a little bit of water in. You might want to get a clean water if you're worried about mixing the blue into the yellow, but it should be absolutely fine as long as you don't have excess paint on your brush. Dipping the tip of your brush into your water shouldn't pick up lots of color pigment. So I'm going to slap on this orangey color. And I'm not going to worry about leaving any white blank bits because I'm about to layer it with a few different shades of yellow and orange. So we're just using horizontal brush strokes this time. I finally got the hang of which is horizontal and which is vertical. It's all very good.
Oh, it's like learning left and right all over again, isn't it?
I know. Oh, I did forget to mention, Instagram, you are actually backwards, in case you've looked at the original and thought she's gone absolutely mad. I mean, that is also true, but I don't just see it backwards. The camera is mirrored on Instagram, but it doesn't matter as long as you follow along to what you can see. And that is the reason I'm not specifying left and right, and I'm sticking to that. Not the fact that I don't know it.
Good plan.
Don't know how I passed my driving test, I really don't. So we've got a messy kind of orangey color down here. Now, we're going to do a different orange color to layer over the top. This is where you decide which shade of orange you need, because mine, you'll notice, is still quite yellowy. So I'm going to mix up an orange with more red in it this time. But if yours is already quite dark, you might want to have one that is really, really yellowy. So use this time to experiment compared to what you've got so far. And all I'm going to do is start adding a few random brush strokes wherever I can see it's a little bit white and patchy. Again, mix in lots of water into my paint so that it spreads. And don't worry if you've got some white patches showing through, because I'm about to do that anyway, so you're just a step ahead of the game, really. Okay, I should really take my own advice and mix more water. That would be very helpful. Okay. And while we are filling this in, I'm really intrigued to find out where people are painting from today, because last time we had someone, I can't remember where they are now. Was it San Antonio they said they were in?
Oh, yeah. We've had people from everywhere. It's been great. Laura, you read my mind because I was about to say exactly the same thing and read out a few people here on the YouTubes. So we have Anita, who's joining from North London. Anita, I would love to mention, has been attending a lot of these events. I've seen her name coming up quite a lot. So we are very, very lucky to have Anita still joining us to do lots of different paintings, and very grateful too. So thank you, Anita. We have Paul joining from Sutton Coldfield. We've got Suma joining from sunny Leeds. Oh, lovely. It's sunnier than it is here. It's a bit cloudy in London.
Nice. It's lovely.
Oh, we have Elaine from Madrid. Amazing.
Ooh,
so many places. Delightful. So, which is very exciting. Maybe give us a thumbs up at this point too if you're following along. You're happy. Oh, we got Beverly joining from Reykjavik. Oh, wow.
I don't even know where that is.
It's delightful, Laura. It's in Iceland. You should definitely go. I would recommend.
Ooh. All right, when we can leave the house again, I'll venture out to Reykjavik. Okay. Next stage. Once you've got this, again, don't worry if it's patchy and white. That's what we want. You can always go over it with white if you fancy, but for now I'm going to leave it. I'm going to start on my vase. I'm going to use the same orangey color just for the sake of recycling the paint. But again, you can make your vase whatever color you want. You don't have to listen to me or the original. You don't have to listen to Van Gogh. He's dead. He doesn't care. And what I'm going to do, you'll see there's this curved line because it's a slightly different color at the top than it is at the bottom. Ooh, very exciting. So all I'm going to do is make sure I'm up higher than my table. Ignore this line for now. That's irrelevant. We're about to paint over that. Forget that exists. And I'm just going to do a curvy line like so. And then I'm going to fill in this top section with my orange paint or whatever paint you have decided you're going to fill it in with. This is when you might want to adjust the shape of your vase a little bit if it's gone kind of funky. But I'm not too worried about that because we can always, or we will, in fact, outline it. Multitasking, not my strong point. I'm all over the place. I've got two cameras and it's all a bit much. All right, so I've done the top bit in orange. If you are sticking true to the original, again, we're not worrying if we can see our brush strokes because we're going to add them on in the end anyway. Magic. And then I'm going to do the bottom half in a slightly lighter color. So I am going to add a little bit more yellow into that orange. And then I'm going to add some white. Ooh, this is exciting. So we should end up with a kind of almost slightly peachy color. Beautiful. And then we're just going to fill in our bottom section. Now you shouldn't have any trouble covering this up because you'll only have done it in yellow. Mine may remain there for a little while because I did it dark so you could see it. But we're not too worried. It will be all right. You may just have to wait. If you can still see it, you might need to do a few layers. Beautiful. So we're filling it in now with this lighter color, which I made by just adding some white and a bit more yellow into my orange. But again, you can feel free to do your colors however you like. We are not here to judge you. Whoop. In fact, we get very excited when you do it a little bit different. Ooh. Fabulous. And this is where we need to leave that bit to dry. I'm one of those very impatient artists that I want it to be covered now, but I do need to just wait, leave it to dry, and I'll come back to that later. So what I'm going to do now is have a look up here. Hopefully, if you touch your background, it should be pretty much dry at this point. Fingers tightly crossed. If not, and you're on YouTube, feel free to just kick back, relax, pause the video, shut me up for a minute, have a drink. Beautiful. I see you giggling, George.
Oh yeah, I was thinking. This is. I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
So
We
what?
actually have a few more shout outs, Laura,
Oh,
as
go
I'm
for it.
here. So we've got on
Right hand.
Instagram too. We've got Heis from Manchester. We've got someone from Essex. We have felt art crafts. I'd love to know about their felt art crafts
Ooh.
from Birmingham. We've got Manchester. Someone else was saying on YouTube too. Oh, Michelle said all of the Keane family are doing this from our different houses, which is lovely. So even if you
Aw.
are separated, you can still manage to get together as a family and watch us, which is really, really lovely.
Hey, King family. I'm loving feeling the love from Birmingham and Manchester today. There's a lot of love from Birmingham and Manchester. Lovely stuff. I won't attempt to do the accent because that would be very offensive.
No, it's great.
And
Oh yeah.
people
I
always do
couldn't
it to
even do
me.
it.
You do it all the time, George. All right. What we're going to do now. Oh, I'm choking on cider. We are going to start adding a few shapes into the background. Now, if you've done one of our lives before, you'll remember my favorite tip to cover up the background color is white paint. Ooh. Yes, so what I'm going to do is pick up my medium round tip brush, or you may wish to do it with your small brush if you've got a little bit more time, but I'm just slapping it on at this point. And I'm going to be flicking white paint outwards in the shape of the petals so that it covers up the background a little bit. Now, what you want to do is not put water into your paint this time. You're just going to dip it straight into your white paint, but you're still going to spread it kind of thin, if that makes sense. So wherever there might be a flower, a petal on your flower, I'm just going to drag it out like so. It won't cover it perfectly, but this is going to provide you a base. Hopefully you can see that there. I've just flicked it outwards. I've done quite a large one so you can see it. And all we're going to do is go around all of our sunflowers now and just make the edges a little bit messy. So we're going to add petals in white, and remember we're spreading them quite thin. You don't need to do this perfectly. Don't try and imagine every individual petal at this point. You're just going to do a really rough slapping of the white paint on so that we can cover up the blue a little bit. It might take a few layers, but you don't need to be neat with it. You're just going to make a sunburst out of your circle. You can see that starting to work there. So I'm going to go round lots of my different flowers. I'm going to keep going round, and then I might come back and layer over the same ones again if the blue's not covering very well. It will depend on the consistency of your paint. But if you're someone that has already drawn your sunflowers on, then you might be filling in your background around the shapes now at this point. Whichever stage you're at, we'll all meet in the middle eventually. You might find the blue is still a little wet, so it is still blending in slightly, but nobody panic. You just want to make a really rough sunburst around each of your flowers. Now, however many you've done, remember there's going to be some down here. You don't have to worry about the green ones because the green will cover the blue by itself, so don't worry about all of these ones. These are really round anyway, so I wouldn't worry about making these a different shape. Just focus on whatever ones you've got at the top that are going to be your yellowy sunflowers, okay? Focus your attention and your time on those. All right. Layer in that white paint. Ooh, okay. Remember the first time I did this, I was so nervous because I'd never done an event before. And now this is really weird again. So I'm less scared of you all because I can't see any of you, but it's such a strange way of the world now, isn't it, George?
It is weird, but it is lovely that we can still all reach each other. So I think we can all just be grateful for that. But yes, it is very weird, agreed.
Well, talking of which, we did our first online party last night.
We did.
We did indeed. And
well,
that
you did.
I did. Me and Annie did. It was genuinely so amazing. I was a bit scared, to be honest, because it was more nerve-wracking than my first ever live event, or my first ever in the real world event, should I say? Because there's no one in the room, and you've got the added worry of tech. But it went absolutely fantastic. We met a whole bunch of new people. Some that had never been to one of our events before, some that have been to a few or just done the lives, and we made all sorts of new friends, saw some new people. It was really nice to just chat to people in their own living rooms.
I love that. So kind of a bit of extra info for those who don't know about our online parties. So the online parties is something extra that we've just added to our repertoire of lovely events online. But these are a little bit more intimate. So they're things that we call it a party because you can sign up, and this is a paid event, but it's 2 hours. You get paintings that are a little bit more detailed, so you take a lot longer over them. There's a more chance for socializing, so it's all on Zoom, which is great. You can talk to, if you want a group of people or families that you want to join together, you can still socialize and you can still chat in the background, and it's a lot more intimate. It's a little bit less people, and it is a really lovely thing. So please do look on our website if you'd like to be involved in one of those two. And as Laura said, it was a huge success.
I had a great time.
I love it.
Someone even commented they felt like they'd gone out. Remember those days. All right.
Joy.
I miss the outside world. But let's not focus on that. Now, while our white dries a little bit, I'm going to focus on my orangey round flowers, which is these 3 here, or however many you have chosen to do. I'm going to be intrigued to see how many people have done, or if we've got one giant sunflower anywhere. So what I'm going to do is mix up a nice dark orange. So that is going to be, hiccup, a bit more red this time, mixed in with our yellow so that it's almost red, just turning orange. Oh. It's always a good tip when you're mixing paint to take a little bit at a time and keep adding little blobs. Don't be tempted to slap a huge blob in there because paint will change the color very, very, very quickly. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to fill in these 3, but I'm going to fill them in a bit of a dab. If you've ever met Wyland, our wonderful French artist, he's a very big fan of the dab. So we are going to embrace Wyland today, and we're basically going to dab our paintbrush around the edge. So it's going to be using the circular shape, and we're going to dab just for a bit of texture. You still want to make sure the paint's fairly thin so that it will dry, but this will avoid us having just one big blobby circle. So dab. I
really want to hear people saying dab at home as they're doing this.
I really
Give
hope
us some
so.
thumbs ups and some dabs in the comments if you are actually joining in with Laura and saying dab. That'll be great.
It is really hard to do the dab without saying dab. And the more I say dab, the less dab sounds like a word, to be honest. Dab. I wish I could do it in a French accent. That would be beautiful. You dab. It doesn't really sound much different.
Only our very own Wyland.
Oh, we miss him. We miss you, Wyland. If you're watching, love you. All right, so I'm not worrying if I've got some little white blobs in the middle. That is absolutely fine. We're just adding a bit of texture now with our dabs. Dab. Woo. So we're having a bit of fun, some different textures. And we're just making sure we've filled in our orangey ones. Oh, and I nearly forgot. I do this at every event whenever I do. Well, I always forget something in any painting, but whenever I do this particular painting, I always forget my little blob over here. Aw, because bless him, he is going to be covered mostly in green, but as you can see underneath, he is also a little orange dab. Don't know why he's a he, but he is. All right, so we're just gonna dab the blob. I feel like I've lost the plot. Dab. Does anyone else feel like they're going more and more insane the longer that you can't go outside?
Yes, indeed. In fact, we have someone who is celebrating their birthday today. Paul Bannister on YouTube has just said it's my birthday.
Who is it?
Paul Bannister.
Oh, hey, Paul! Happy birthday!
Yeah. So that's very exciting. Something to help you enjoy your birthday during lockdown.
But yeah, at this point, if we all sang to you, it would just be me singing very loudly, and I'm going to spare you that. But know that in thought, everybody is singing for you at home.
Yeah.
George, we should work on a harmonised version of it for the next time we have one.
I'm on it. I've got hours to spare.
Beautiful. We'll do a Zoom conference and practice. Okay, so We have now got our orange filled in. We've got some rough little dabs. And what you can do if you want to add a little more texture is just dip the tip into your red paint. Depending on how dark yours are, you might want to add a few extra random dabs. But that's just getting fancy, isn't it? It's getting fancy. You might even want to add some white ones if yours is quite dark and you want to add more texture. I don't mind. If you're doing this at home and you've paused the video, you can go crazy with the dabs. Go absolutely crazy, like me. So now what we're going to do is we are going to be adding the colour to our sunflowers. Yes. So I'm going to do this in a nice messy style because that's who I am as a person. So the first thing I will do is mark out the circle in the centre of each of my sunflowers. I forgot what they were a second there. Okay, so I'm just going to keep with my medium brush and I'm just going to dip the tip into the orange again and I'm going to mark out, remembering this one is going to be green. I'm going to mark out a circle. You can do a big circle or a small circle. It is very much up to you. I'm going to mix it up. There's a small one. I'll do a slightly bigger one on that one. This is just a rough circle so you know where your petals end and the center of your flower begins. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick with that orange for now. And I'm going to start slapping on some random petals. Now, if you're using acrylic and you're trying to cover up the background, you're going to want to put less water in at this point. But that's fine because these don't need to dry very quickly. So all I'm going to do is start flicking some random petals out. And I'm not going to worry about making these too neat again because I'm going to layer up with a few different colours. So you don't have to make every single petal in this colour. Or you might want to, depending on how thick and luscious you'd like your flowers to be. Remember, this isn't going to be perfect as the original because we are doing this in under an hour. I dread to think how many hours Van Gogh spent on his version.
Oh God, I couldn't imagine.
I'd love for you to work it out. Well, here's the maths actually. How are you at maths, George?
Actually, not too bad at maths.
Okay, well, right, here we go. So, fun fact. Van Gogh didn't paint his first painting until he was 27 years old. He died at 37 years old. This is going to start sounding like one of those maths questions in a little GCSE quiz.
If you have 3 apples,
2 ears, 1.5, who knows? So in 10 years, he painted 900 paintings. So first of all, I'm going to need you for part A of the question to work out how many paintings that averages a week. If you did 900 paintings in 2 years. And for the rest of you who are painting at home, you might want to be doing the maths too, that's up to you. We're going to start adding some texture. So I'm going to stick with my medium brush. I'm not going to bother cleaning it. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to start at the first flower I did because this is spread quite thin. It should be drying fairly quickly, but we want it to kind of blend a bit. So I'm going to dip my brush straight into my yellow now, just my pure yellow. And I'm going to press slightly lighter and I'm going to drag the yellow paint into the petal. So it's going to start getting thicker and thicker and having some different shades as we go. You might want to really vary these flowers up a bit, but for the sake of time and texture, we're going for it in a starburst shape. You can make them bigger or smaller, it's up to you, but we're just going in the order that we did last time. And again, you can alternate petals. And we're just going to go round and round. How are you going with your maths there, George?
Well, okay. I think I've got it, but also I might have cheated on the Googles. But I believe if I do math right, it's 1.7.
Yes. So we'll round that up to 2 because we're nice.
Yeah.
So if he was doing 2 paintings a week, maybe 12 hours a day, how many hours would he have spent on each painting? Okay, so we are layering yellow paint into our orange petals. Again, remember, press a little bit lighter so you can still see the orange around the outside, or you can just alternate each petal. It is up to you. We are making these nice and thick, nice and quick. Hey, the poet. Yeah. Okay. So we've got some texture going on. I wish you could see George's thinking face right now. It's fantastic. Did you get it? Have you got it?
No, I've got lost. But please, if anyone is better at maths than me, give us a wee comment in the Instagrams and in the YouTubes.
I feel like the answer might surprise us. Okay, so the final step I'm going to do on these flowers is just like I did before. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white paint on the end, and I'm just going to flick it in a few random places. I'm going to do a lot less white than I have with the rest of them. If you feel anywhere that your petal is a bit thin, you can still see that blue poking through. Remember, white is a really good one for covering up. But again, if you want to pause me, make me shut up, go make a cup of tea, give it some time to dry, that is also up to you. You can add as much detail as you like later on. Okay. And now, bit of fun. Dun, 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 we're going to mix up a nice dark green. Now this is why I got my black out, because I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to add the tiniest bit of black into my green to add that darkness. I'm sticking with my medium brush for now. If you want to stop to your small one at any point, feel free, but I'm going to mix up. Got a hiccup again. I'm going to make a green using yellow and blue, which is quite dark anyway. You might want to add a tiny bit of black into it to make it really dark. And again, I'm going to use the same techniques as we did before. So first of all, I'm going to flick the outsides like we did with our little sunflowers, and you can do them over here as well. And then I'm going to fill in the rest with the dab dab. Okay, so you can do some big flicks, some small flicks. They can go all over the place with this one. Keep it messy, have a bit of fun with it. So I'm just flicking that green paint, and then I'm going to fill the rest in with my dab dab. Love the dab dab. We could be here for hours adding textures with different
I love it.
kind of colors of paint and shades of green, but we're keeping it simple. We're creating a masterpiece in under an hour. Magical. You might want to come back and layer over that later if you can still see a yellow.
Yeah, please go for it. We would love to see if everyone's doing okay and following along. I know this is a lot of information to be receiving in a short amount of time, but Laura, it's looking fab and it's looking very textured, and I think the dab dab is working. So
it's all about the dab dab.
yeah, maybe give us some thumbs up if you're feeling like you're following along, or if you're happy with what you've got, or any comments if you feel like you need any extra support. Yeah, go for it. We do have someone who's just commented in on YouTube saying, I'm not sure who YC is, but apparently YC has chopped off her ear to really get into it this afternoon. So she's going authentic, which is hilarious, and I'm well into it.
That's a little bit worrying. Uh-oh.
Just, you know.
All I can say is you definitely need to drink more, or maybe if you drunk too much, I don't know. So we are also going to add in a few little random leaves here, there, and everywhere. And we're going to add our stalks in green. Stalks, is that the word? Stems. I'm a flower expert. So if you've got any gaps, like I have, you just want to make sure that you've got a line connecting your flower to something. It probably won't be much. You won't see much of it at all, but that is absolutely fine. So we're just going to add a little bit of green in there so that it's not floating in the air. A little stalk here, a little stalk there.
Laura, sorry, just a question from Audrey. She's asking, are you able to show the picture again, the original?
Yes, I can.
And also remember, Audrey, if you're not seeing it for long enough, you can also find the original picture on our website as well. So if you go to...
You've got a little jumpy there, George, but yeah, if you look on our website at popuppainting.com/live, you will see all of the original ones. So I'm going to remember to connect my little one this time, because I always forget my little one. And then I am going to add lots and lots of flicks. This is the point where you might want to swap to your little brush if you are a bit heavy-handed, or you might want to embrace it. So the flicks are going to go outwards and inwards. So it's almost like it's being cupped because it's not burst out of its green yet. It's on its way. So I'm just going to do some flicks going outwards and some flicks coming inwards. We're keeping this really, really messy and rough. Not too worried at all. So I'm going to add a little leaf in here just to keep it interesting. A few little green flicks coming out from up here. With any of these details, it is totally up to you how much or how little you add to your painting. This is your masterpiece after all. You are unleashing your creativity. So you can completely ignore me whenever you want to. You might just want to add some green. Just add a little texture. Neaten up the edge of the petals a little bit. But I'm not too worried about that. So what I'm going to do, just for the sake of keeping life simple at the moment, I'm going to fill in the center of my flowers using this green as well. Just really rough circles. If you drag a bit of the orange paint in, that actually looks quite nice. So don't worry if that happens. I'm just spiraling the green from the middle of the circle outwards, dragging in a bit of that paint. Ooh. And it's going to look very textured very quickly. Beautiful. I'm actually quite happy with that. You can also add some white into it if you want to make it really layered and textured and lovely. But for now, I'm going to make sure that we get this done in time before Instagram kicks us out.
Oh, no, the devil.
I've just seen a comment saying mine is has a lot of blue showing through. Don't panic, take a bit of time to let it dry. Add a bit of white. You want to go over it in white and let that dry. You might want to do a few layers if you've got a bit of time, or just keep layering and layering and layering. Mine actually has quite a lot showing through up close, but a really handy trick is when you take pictures of it, it looks just magically better. But yeah, definitely take your time. If you're at home, don't worry, it will be on YouTube for the foreseeable future and also on Instagram for the next 24 hours. So no worries, you've got all the time you need to let it dry and keep layering and layering. Like I would, if I had the time, I'd be covering this up right now. But alas, we do not. So I'm just going to add a few last minute details to this painting. What I'm going to do is, first of all, take my big brush. I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean, because I forgot to clean it after the orange. Naughty, naughty. And I'm going to make sure it's nice and dry, or as dry as you can get it, using my kitchen roll. Very handy, handy tool. And I'm going to add that texture that you saw in the background, the white bit. Now, this is all very random. And again, I'm using those horizontal and vertical stripes with my square brush. If you don't have a square brush, don't panic, just lots of dashes. And I'm just going to dip the tip into my white paint, and just in some random places, I'm going to really lightly do some brush strokes down and some brush strokes across to make a little crosshatch. And I'm just going to do that around the edges in case you've done it quite smoothly. You just add in a bit of texture into the background. Now you can do as much or as little as you like of this. You might not want to do it at all, or you might want to go over it with a different color. Especially if you haven't done blue, you might want to get a bit fancy. If you've done, say, a red background, you might want to add some pink blobs for texture. Oh, that sounds fun. I always want to make every painting pink, but I've got to stick to the original.
Lovely.
So we've just added a bit of mess into there. You can also do a bit onto your table if you found that your colour is looking a little bit flat. But that's fine. I'm going to keep those lines mostly horizontal, as we did before. And then if you want to add another little bit of a fancy detail, you can just add some lighter bits in the middle of your vase so that it looks 3D. So I'm just going to turn the brush on its side and do some little dashes. I'm going to get wider as I go towards the top, and that's going to give the illusion of a curl. So I'm doing dashes of a curve rather than a curl. That makes sense. So it's basically dashes that go up into a little triangle.
Would you say that could be a dab dab, Laura?
That is kind of a dab dab, but with a little stroke stroke. It's not just a dab, but it's got a little stroke stroke action on it too. You have the mind, get out the gutter. Right. So for the sake of this wonderful piece of artwork, I might go over my line, see if it'll cover again. It will not. I'm going to let it go. Let it go. But you have all the time in the world. I am going to pick up my teeny tiny brush. Hello, little brush. And I am going to add the final details now. Ooh, this is a very quick version, isn't it? Ooh, you couldn't tell the difference. All right. All I'm going to do is outline my vase. And all I'm going to do is use the red paint for this, just quite simply red on its own. And I'm going to do a line along the top here. Now you'll notice on the original, he signed his name on the vase. So if you want to make it look like the original, you could put Vincent, or you could sign it with your own name, which is what I am going to do. So we're going to get our little teeny tiny brush, and I'm going to dip it straight into the red paint. I'm not going to bother with water because I want it to be quite a solid line. I'm going to do my straight line first. It won't be perfectly straight. Do not panic about trying to make it perfectly straight, or you may actually go insane and chop your own ear off. Who knows? No, apparently somebody already has, so I'm a bit worried that I may have driven them to it.
I don't know, Laura. I'd say it's just dedication to the creativity, you know?
I love that. We actually did a Van Gogh last night and someone came dressed up as him. It was very impressive.
That's amazing.
His self-portrait with the straw hat on. And he looked like him as well, with a little ginger beard going on. It's beautiful. So I'm now outlining my vase. Again, I'm going to make that line as neat as I can, but I'm not going to be too precious because we will be here all day. Woo. I'd like to say I'm normally a perfectionist, but I'm really not. I'm like, yeah, I'll do. All right, so I'm going around the outside, down both sides. It's quite fun when you do a painting from the side. What looks right to me right now, I look on the screen and suddenly I'm like, oh, that's not what I was seeing. It's all very exciting. So we're outlining the whole vase. Give it a slightly flatter bottom. And then I'm going to do that line in the middle between the two different colours. Mine have blended together quite a bit, so this will help. It will help us to see the difference in colour. There you go, magic. Magic. See, this doesn't look like such a deep curve, but on the camera, this is quite rotund, this vase. It's quite rotund indeed. So what I'm going to do is sign my name right here. This may take a bit of a steady hand, which I totally have. If you've drunk too much at this point, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Okay. Oh, well, then you just take on the motto of the more you drink, the better it looks.
That is
That's all that one can do.
A motto for life. So I have put my name there. That's Laura. Woo, I even spelled it right. Whee! Well done, me. Yeah. If I'd have tried to do it in capital letters, no hope. Cannot spell my own name with capital letters. So this is the absolute basic version of the painting. As you can see on the original, there is a lot more texture and detail. So if you have the time now, you can always go into it. Oh, do you know what I did forget, which I always forget? I didn't give him any circles in the middle there. So I'm going to do that in green paint. I'm going to add a couple of little circles. I forgot my orange ones. This one doesn't have one. Oh, he does. It's down there. Woo! Told you, I always forget something. But look at me. I remembered last minute. So if you are still taking a bit of time after we disappear, you can add a lot more texture. I would recommend using your little teeny tiny brush, and you can start adding some shadows underneath your flowers. Just using the green paint is what he's done. I just painted the original. Oh, shocking. You can add lots more texture. You can do loads of different colors into your petals. You can use white. You can even cut in with black if you're really brave. just go crazy. Loads and loads of dabs and flicks and strokes, all of them. And then you will have a masterpiece, which we would have worked out how long you needed to take to be the same as Van Gogh, but George is lazy with maths, apparently. I'm very sorry about that.
I'm also sorry. I was too engrossed in the dabs.
The dabs are fun. We do love the dabs.
We
I
do.
get very distracted by Wyland's dabs. Not a euphemism.
Aww.
Okay, so
I love it.
I'm gonna finish talking there.
Lovely.
And, yeah, I look
Thank
forward
you
to
so
seeing what you've come
much.
up with later.
Laura, it looks grand. I love it. There's a lot of texture in there. Please, as Laura said, you know, you can try this. You can try this at home. You can save. Sorry, not save. Oh, well, you can save if you want to, but you can pause us. You can take as much time as you like. You can go back if you want to and really take your time and make lots of layers and lots of dabs and all of the good stuff. But I think it looks great. I think for just under an hour, that is grand. Do you want to add me back into Instagram and I can do a wee goodbye?
That bit, well remembered.
Oh, I'm full of the memory today. Ah, thank you.
Oh, I'm going to plug my headphones back in again so it doesn't start screaming at me.
Lovely.
Woo.
The joys of live, eh?
Yes.
Hello, Instagram. Again, I'm just gonna give you a little bit of an outro. Thank you so much for joining this afternoon. Thanks everyone for joining. Again, as at the beginning, if you do want to share these pictures with us, please do. We love to see all of your creations and your wild creativity. You can at us at PopUp Painting. You can hashtag popuppaintinglive too, and we can be able to reshare and share all the joy. We do have some events coming up very soon. So tomorrow we actually have our second online party event, which is going to be run by me and Annie, I believe. Ooh. And then we also have another one of those coming up before our Wednesday, the 6th of May, is our next live event that's going to be on YouTube and Instagram. So that is a street art event, and that's actually a new one, I believe, which is very exciting. So lots of colors in that one. So if you fancy something a bit more fresh, a bit more edgy, come and join in, and that will be on Wednesday. So for now, I think just to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining. We'd love to see your pictures. Do sign them, because when you go to sell them on eBay tomorrow, that will be worth a lot more if it's got your signature on. And have a lovely Saturday afternoon, evening, and we'll see you again soon, hopefully. Bye-bye.